Hi, and welcome to Azure Functions. I'm Marty Mazurek. In this section, we are going to go over triggers. What are they? How do they relate to Azure Functions? What are the types of triggers? What are some use cases for triggers? And then we're going to go over a demonstration. What are triggers? I would think the best definition is their linkages to your Azure Functions. An Azure function being a compute instance of code, a section of code, narrowed down to just a function call. How does that function get invoked? The trigger. So what else constitutes or defines a trigger? Well, normally they have associated data. When a trigger to a function is enacted, you'll pass some data in. Sometimes you'll get some data out. These can be defined within the definition, the description of the function itself, depending on how you do your bindings. Or we can optionally use external bindings. And those provide a way to connect that is declarative. Both triggers and bindings provide a layer of abstraction. The types of triggers we have are HTTP triggers, and those are, they look like and feel like you're just making a regular REST API call. We have timers that can go off for periodic execution of code. There's blob triggers, so when a binary large object would get uploaded to Azure, it could trigger some code to run. We have triggers tied to the database layer known as Cosmos, the ecosystem of database infrastructure there, Cosmos. So anything within the Cosmos ecosphere could be tied to a DB event, to a trigger. And then we have other message queue type triggers. So messaging triggers that could come from the old service bus topics, from the newer event hubs or event grids. And so a message could come over those channels and your trigger would enact that code. Use cases. So HTTP, let's say I wanted to create a very, very light microservice. It only exposes one call, a single function call microservice. I could use an HTTP trigger, and we're going to look at that. Blob trigger, I could post-process a video. Say I wanted to move it out to a content delivery network or do some other transcoding or transpiling of a video. I could use a blob trigger for that. A service bus topic, if I wanted to receive a message from a service bus, some external service bus like Kafka, I could write something that would process that message. If it's a single operation, a single purpose, then your Azure function and these type of bindings to that function will come into play. All right, let's review. Azure functions, triggers, and bindings allow for compute instances to be triggered by an external event to a piece of code. We went over the types of triggers, the HTTP trigger, blob triggers, timer triggers that could cause that code to run. The use case, which I'm going to go into now, we're going to wrapper a single purpose microservice to do texting. All right, we're here with the demo portion. I have created an SMS function app, and inside of it I've inserted a function called send text message. All this basically gets set up when you create your Azure function project. What the code is going to do is wrapper the sending of a text message. Very simple. The organization asked me, how can we send a text from our Azure applications? I said we can create a REST API quickly using Azure functions. When I insert the code, I get basically all of this for free. So it templatizes and puts stuff in. We have compiler extensions for the function name, declaring it, keyword run here, and then inside some other syntactic sugar attribute stuff, really attribute-based routing for the rest, as well as putting in authorization level as anonymous. So the default routes will come in here for a get and a post, and we'll get the HTTP request, and we'll return the iAction result. So for those of you who've done REST APIs, this is very similar to a REST API call. We get some other stuff for free. We have this TraceWriter log. And then I did put some code in here. This is Twilio specific. Twilio is a text messaging service you can sign up for. So I went out and created a free account. When I looked at their code page, they said include these couple lines in your C# code. It's using statements. Basically initialize with your account ID and your token, the Twilio client, and then basically I can make the call to Twilio down here, Twilio specific code, and then I'll check my return values. So very short block of code. It basically is able to run here locally. Azure Functions bring down the Azure Function platform to run locally. When you get the logo, which is kind of cool there for the Azure Function, it is also going to tell you what your where your HTTP function is hosted, where it's running at, so you can test it. And so this is at 7071. I'm going to pull up Postman, which is what we use to test REST APIs. I have a 771 API / send text message, and then I have my query string with the phone number and the message, and I could say testing live, whatever, live, ignore this text. And this is going to call my local Azure function, which is going to turn around and it wrappers it and sends it to Twilio. So I'll go ahead and send, and then I get back a message ID from Twilio. And in a second, I should see on my phone, I'm not going to show you that, but 1000, 1000. Still waiting for the Twilio text to come in. And there it is. Sent from your Twilio trial account. Testing live, ignore this text. And that ends the demo.